I'm Sonia. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And today I decided to talk a little bit about minimalism. I think it's still quite relevant in 2023, and it certainly is very relevant in my life still. I live in the southeastern part of Europe. I live in a region of Serbia called Banat. Technically, we are not Balkan because, geographically we are above the line where the Balkan Peninsula starts. But the mentality here is quite similar. I mean, it is Balkan mentality. So, with, nuances. And I've noticed how those nuances made my version of minimalism very specific because it's closely tied to the way of life over here in general. And that being said, life over here in general is quite simple, quite frugal, and somehow yet we're all hoarders. It's quite common to have houses over here that are filled up to the brim with stuff. In most cases, it's generational stuff, and it is something that I've noticed. And I think I've personally been into minimalism since 2015 or something. It was right before the birth of our first son. And my husband, well, back then he was a partner. My husband and I, we were massively decluttering. We switched from a rental to a small apartment in my family backyard. It's next to the house of my parents, and it's, we had to downsize the amount of stuff we own, and then I don't know, one thing led to another, and we ended up decluttering massively. And in that process, I noticed, I always knew my family. I would say I come from a long line of hoarders, and it's quite understandable. And it's really quite common around here. This part of Europe is, I would say the climate over here is a bit, it goes to extremes. So we have super warm summers, super cold winters, not much in between. We used to have springs and falls. Now that line is getting thinner, and that affects life. And I mean life in a biological sense. It affects it so that we have a lot of flooding, a lot of droughts. Sometimes, we have those super cold spring months. So we have years where some fruits are diminished because, the temperature goes below a certain degrees, and then ice sort of entraps the flowers and all that stuff. So, and also Balkans, I'm sure you've heard, if you know about Balkans, you know about us because of the wars we had in recent and not so recent history. It's the way it's in a way in the middle of some sort of geographical area, Balkan. So there's a lot of transitioning over here of other nations throughout history. And it's and our mentality, which is a combination of warm Italian, leisure, Mediterranean kind of dolce finente lifestyle combined with, like Slav emotional mentality. And then we are like Americans in a way that we like to work. We are workaholics, most of us. So when you combine all that and you put us in that really harsh climate, no wonder we have that many wars. And when I was, if I look at my life, just my life, and it's same for every generation, my generation was through two massive wars we experienced years of massive inflation where you basically could not buy anything you work whole month and you get something like, I don't know, $5 at the end of the month, and then during that day, because of the inflation, it devalues completely and you end up having not even those $5 that you had. And now when I think about it, it's really weird that we survived those years, but we did. And I think the reason why we did survive those years is exactly the reason that I mentioned that is making us hoarders. And that is that everybody around here, it's normal to have a, like pantry stocked for 6 months worth of time, average family spending supplies, So it's normal it's just part of our culture, part of our mentality. We always expect, it has changed a little bit in the last couple of years where we massively transitioned to capitalism and to consumerism. But in the 90s especially, it was normal for a family to have, 50 kilos of flour just sitting down in the pantry, and 50 or like 20 kilos of sugar and all those good staple stuff in your pantry. And it's normal in the sense that every family had that. Well, not every family, because some families really, really, really had the hardest time ever during the 90s. But then other family members helped each other, so it was cool. Which is another thing about our culture here, is that we tend to stick together. If, when times get really, really tough, we forget about our differences and sort of help each other out. And that is a nice thing. I think that's a very nice thing. And I think we should, locally, should do everything we can to keep that way. Modern way of life is making us all quite alienated from each other, and it's making things much harder, making people to stick together much harder with all the differences, etc. And the lack of communication. But I think it's something worth keeping. So going back to my minimalism story, like I said, I think it was 2015 or something when I really, started doing decluttering and minimalism seriously. And the first thing I noticed is that my mental health, and everybody talks about this, but it is true, my mental health improved significantly. I became much calmer, less anxious, which is nice, but the nicest thing is that I became a better decision maker. It was quite easier to make decisions after decluttering than before. And I think it's because there is a wonderful saying that I really, really love, and it goes something like, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And if you work out that decision muscle, it becomes a lot easier if you do it with your stuff, like physical stuff, and I would say less important stuff. Then you are ready to make those big decisions and to make them with a bit of ease. And that certainly happened to me. However, I had a bit of rebounds here and there, and I would say that today I am up for yet another massive declutter, and that is one of the reasons why I'm recording this video and hopefully the following ones, which I plan to record. And that is sort of to record this journey of becoming a minimalist. Now, there is the reason why I started with this topic, the Balkan minimalism, is because I'm entering this arena of renowned minimalists, and I just wanted to make sure that we understand that I will probably never be the person who has just one backpack starting with the fact that there's 4 of us. We have 2 kids now, me and my husband, and life, like I said, in Banat requires you to have clothing for 4 seasons. Even though the spring and fall is a bit murky, it's still there. We still have spring and fall and winter and summer, and that alone requires me to have a lot more clothes than somebody who is living in a like those countries of everlasting spring. And also there are parts of my heritage that I deeply cherish and value, and that are part of my culture as well, that I don't want to forsake. I actually find that to be an add-on to my form of minimalism, and that's something that I want to share. And that, I would say, changes the definition of minimalism more, or it pivots it more to the frugal end of things. And there is a saying, well, it's not a saying, it's my saying, but it's, if I said it, people around me would understand it. In Banat specifically, nothing gets thrown away. You do not throw away anything. And that makes us extreme hoarders. And that was something that used to annoy me so much, especially in the first years of me getting acquainted to minimalism. But as I grew older and as I matured and as I went through some socioeconomic transitions that I will talk to you about in next episodes, I started cherishing that nothing gets thrown away attitude. And I like the fact that I own pieces that are 100 years old and still in use, and that come from somebody in my family, or I maybe bought it even in a thrift store or a flea market. And I like that, I think that is the actual minimalism we should strive for, where we get to, and I'm not judging anybody else's minimalism. I'm just advocating for my version, I would say. I'm inviting you to embrace it if it resonates with you. I'm not saying that my version of minimalism is better than anybody else's, and certainly not saying that. But I just want to share this version of minimalism, and I do my best to depict the life that we live here and that we consider quite normal, but compared to maybe other parts of the world, even my own country, it's not that common, but here it's normal. Everybody lives like that. And I'm sure that your piece of the world, wherever you live at, has that something so unique, so worth sharing. And with that, I will end this video with a small question, asking you to basically tell me where you come from and what part of the world are you watching this video from. And also, if you want to learn more about my version of minimalism, please subscribe. If you like this video, please like it, share it, and see you in the next episode. I promise it's going to be a better one. I'm going to relax a little bit more. It's been a while since I recorded these videos, and so that's it for now. Greetings from Banat and from Balkan, and see you in the next episode. Bye.